First off, the state is opening up dozens of new testing sites in rural California. We're fighting to get expanded testing in both Lake and Mendocino County. And I promise you, we are going to continue to fight to ensure that we see expanded testing in our home communities. Now, there's been a big movement this week on the economic front. The state is working with local governments on stage 2 of reopening our economy safely and strategically. This stage is going to be focused on reopening mom-and-pop retail and manufacturing starting this coming Friday, May 8th. The bottom line is this. Business owners should be working with their public health departments on protocols and best practices to keep employees and customers safe. But I want to be candid. Stage 2 is not going to look like the normal that we were all used to just a couple of months ago. Business owners should be prepared to limit the number of customers in their shops. Business owners should be prepared to keep customers and employees, along with coworkers, socially distanced, and businesses should have enhanced cleaning and masking regimens. What you won't see in stage 2, you won't see seated dining at restaurants. You're not going to see but big public events or opening up of salons and barbershops, per the state of California. And candidly, large events with large crowds will not take place through at least the summer months, according to the California Department of Public Health. Base guidelines from the state will be put into place, and potential local guidelines from your Department of Public Health will be forthcoming. So be on the lookout for those. You should think of the state guidelines as the ground floor. Counties can't be less than whatever the state has in their health guidelines. Finally, what's happening today, I think you'd agree with me, would be unimaginable just a few short weeks ago. Please know that we're going to be here for you now. We're going to be here for you in the months and years to come. I would now like to be able to transition and go over the flow for this evening and introduce our speakers. He's going to be giving us an overview of the coronavirus and antibody testing and when we'll see a widespread vaccine. That's Dr. Brewer. Dr. Brewer is from UCLA Geffen School of Medicine. He'll be joining us in just a few moments. We're then going to turn it over to the public health officers from Mendocino and Lake counties, Dr. Duhan and Dr. Pace, with a full report. We're then going to hear from the hardworking superintendents of schools from both Lake as well as Mendocino County. We have Michelle Hutchins from Mendocino and Brock Falkenberg from Lake with us here standing by. We'll hear from them shortly. Then we're going to get to your questions, your comments, and have the conversation. But first, let's turn it over to Dr. Brewer for the overview of the coronavirus, antibody testing, when we're going to see that widespread vaccine, and what to expect as the economy opens in the weeks to come. Dr. Brewer, good evening, sir. It's always good to have you. The floor is yours. You have 3 to 4 minutes.
Thank you very much, Senator. And let me also extend my personal thanks to everyone in Mendocino and Lake County for all that you've done to help us control the COVID-19 pandemic. It really has made a tremendous difference for our hospitals and healthcare workers and prevented us from having the kind of surges that have happened in New York, Northern Italy, and other places. So your sacrifices really have saved lives and made a difference, and I do want to add my thanks as well. So where do we stand? Globally, we have about 3.6 million cases, about 250,000 deaths. That's a case fatality rate of about 7%, and that continues to rise steadily, unfortunately. Here in the United States, we have about 1.2 million cases, so 1 out of every 3 cases in the entire world has been reported from the United States. That gives you a sense of the scope of the pandemic within our country. We've had about 70,000, almost 71,000 deaths in the U.S. Our case fatality rate's a little bit lower than the global rate. To put that in perspective, we're seeing about 25,000 new cases every single day. So even though we've made tremendous progress, we still have a long way to go, but there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel as the number of positive cases has been slowly decreasing in the country as a whole. Here in California, we have about 58,800 cases, about 2,400 deaths, and our case fatality rate is actually lower than the national average. It's about 4%, so we're doing very well in California. Unfortunately, our most vulnerable populations remain people with comorbid disease, heart disease, lung disease, and individuals over the age of 65, so that their hospitalization rates still remain very high in the order of 130 per 100,000 population. Put that in perspective, for all cases as a whole, it's about 40 per 100,000, so less than a third. So we really have to continue to try to protect our vulnerable populations. As you probably heard, African American blacks are more likely to be cases and to die from COVID-19. They account for about 30% of the cases nationally, about 6% of the cases in California, but 10% of the deaths. As of May 5th, over 800,000 tests had been done in California, and actually there is a website, covid19.ca.gov, where you can go to get a list of testing sites across the state. There are two kinds of tests. One is a viral test, and the other is an antibody test. The antibody test is not a test for acute infection. So if you're sick, call your healthcare worker. They will arrange the proper test for you. The antibody test is a test looking for past infection. Antibodies take about 1 to 3 weeks to form. They are available in California right now, but they are not available as FDA home-approved tests. So you can only get these tests in a laboratory, and you should go through your healthcare provider if you feel you should be tested. But again, if you have symptoms consistent with COVID-19, fever, cough, breathing, then the kind of test that they're going to do is actually the viral test, not the antibody test. And then just briefly, as the senator said, we are about 1 to 2 years away, I believe, from a vaccine, and I'd be happy to talk about that more in the question period. Thank you, Senator.
Dr. Brewer, it's always good to hear your voice. We're so happy you're on. Thank you so much, Dr. Brewer from UCLA Medicine. We're now going to turn it over to our local healthcare professionals, and I want to take a moment to say thank you to both Dr. Duhan from Mendocino County. She's the Mendocino County Public Health Officer, and Dr. Pace, the Lake County Public Health Officer. They have had some challenging months, and I appreciate all of their work. We're going to turn it over to them for a comprehensive update on the total number of cases in the county, a testing update, what will opening the community look like, and what's the potential timeline. And they're going to also talk about their concerns in the weeks and months ahead. Let's start with Dr. Duhan, Public Health Officer from Mendocino County. The floor is yours, ma'am. You have 3 to 4 minutes, and I'll give you a 30-second prompt.
Thank you, Senator McGuire, for this opportunity to communicate with the public and to share this time with you. And it's an honor for me to be here with Dr. Pace, who is a very close colleague and friend. I respect him tremendously. So we've been working for over 100 days, days and nights on this pandemic. And as it's unfolded in Mendocino County, I have such great admiration for the people of Mendocino County. We've had 12 cases in Mendocino County, and none of them have led to an outbreak. Each of those cases has isolated and quarantined their contacts. There's been no deaths, no hospitalizations, and as I said, no uncontained outbreaks. All but 2 of those 12 cases have fully recovered, and all have recovered at home. 2 more just have a few more days to recover. In terms of testing, we've done nearly 1,700 tests in Mendocino County, and of those, only 12 positive. So that's a small percentage. About half of those tests have been surveillance tests that we've done looking at high-risk populations across the county, and none of those surveillance tests have been positive. About half have been done in clinics and hospitals for people that are sick, and out of those, as I've said, we've had the 12 positive. So this has been a really positive story of collaboration between the clinics and the hospitals, the tribes, our jails, our skilled nursing facilities, and it's a very positive story. Regarding testing, we have no shortage of the swabs that are required to obtain samples at this time. We have the viral transport medium to put those swabs in, to send them to the lab. What we're limited in right now is the testing capacity, the PCR, the molecular diagnostic testing machines. We do not have a significant supply of these machines in our county, and the goal that the governor has set forth, that we should do 1.5 tests per day per 1,000 people, means that we should be doing about 135 tests a day in our county, and we do not have the PCR machine capacity in our county or within an hour drive of us to be able to do this. And this is my greatest concern coming into this call today. And I do thank you, Senator McGuire, for how you've advocated for us to get this testing capacity to our testing desert of Mendocino County. We have made many advances in terms of how we're going to mitigate against the threat of COVID with facial coverings, medical masks, isolation and quarantine orders, social distancing, hygiene protocols for businesses. And as we move into the next phase of reopening, I do have a new sheltering in place order coming out this Friday. And what it's going to show, in alignment with the government, is increased freedom for children so they can get outside and play, retail being able to open to curbside pickup, manufacturing opening up, more recreational opportunities for the people of Mendocino County, but we need to be sure to limit tourism. We don't have tourism now in Mendocino County. We can't have camping at this time. We can't have gatherings because of the governor. And so we need to be able to let our people experience life more freely, but keep it to the people of Mendocino County so that we can be safe. So I do
about
think
30
that
seconds, Dr. Duhan.
Okay. As the summer unfolds, we're really going to be looking to the governor for guidance about how we might be able to open beyond that. Thank you.
Dr. Duhan, thank you so much. Plenty of questions and comments that are coming in that we'll be working with Dr. Duhan and Dr. Pace on. Let's turn the floor over now to the Public Health Officer for the County of Lake, Dr. Pace. The floor is yours. You have 3 to 4 minutes, and we'll give you a 30-second prompt. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator McGuire. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to everybody. So we have a pretty similar situation in Mendocino County, being a small rural county with a fairly spread out population, not real dense. And so we've had now a total of 8 cases. Almost all those cases were people that got the infection outside of the county and brought it back in. The 6 out of the 8 are already off quarantine and doing fine. The last 2 are doing well and are complying with the isolation. The last case was in the jail. And anytime there's a concern about the infection getting in the jails or any of the other kind of large places where people are living together, we get very concerned about the possibility of it spreading rapidly. This was picked up through surveillance testing that the Sheriff's Department was doing, and they did 100 tests. This was the only test that was positive out of the 100, and we're working on making sure that there's nobody else infected in there right now, or if they are, that we're containing it. So we're in the process working closely with the sheriff's staff in the jail and trying to be sure that this doesn't get out of control, because these are very concerning, as we've seen in jails around the country and also nursing facilities. These are some of the most vulnerable places, and we are taking particular care to kind of keep on top of that. The testing situation in the county is fairly similar to Mendocino. We've done maybe 700 tests total. We've had a lot of trouble getting testing supplies, the sampling supplies. Recently, that has opened up now, where the state has been supplying us a bit more, and we appreciate your support with that, Senator. And we are now getting those out to the medical partners in the community and having them try to expand their testing, because they've been very careful about guarding their supplies because we were having such a hard time getting them in. But that has opened up now. We've also had one of our public health nurses going out and basically doing testing around the community to people that were in need of it and couldn't get it in other ways. And she's done probably over 100 now in the last couple of weeks. Just this week, we've started a drive-through testing site. The first time was yesterday. We had 40 cases that were tested. Tomorrow, we're going to do it again. And next week, we'll do at least a couple times. And then we're working with some of the state-run mobile testing sites. With this one is called Verily, Verily. We're deep into negotiations with them, trying to get them to come in and do daily drive-through testing. So it's the same situation as Dr. Duhan's saying, very concerning in terms of we need to get about 100 tests a day to get up to the recommendations from the governor's task force. And with this new drive-through testing site, we should be able to do that. So
we have about 30 seconds, Dr. Pace.
Okay, we're optimistic about that. And then in terms of the opening, we are going to line up our orders with the governors on Friday, and we're hoping to basically just be in alignment with those moving forward. And then looking forward, we're hoping to work with the local businesses about getting an accelerated plan moving within the next couple of weeks as we can do the planning and the preparation. So thank you very much for the opportunity here.
Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Pace. Did not mean to interrupt both of you. We will get to questions and comments. We have just been told by the moderator we have hit our 1,000-person limit, so we have about 1,000 folks on the line. Thank you all for tuning in. If you do want to send a question, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. We're now going to be hearing a comprehensive update from our county superintendents of schools, both Michelle Hutchins, who's the superintendent in Mendocino County, and Brock Falkenberg, superintendent of schools in Lake County. We're going to start with Ms. Hutchins from Mendocino County. The floor is yours, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you very much, Senator McGuire. It's a pleasure to be here and to share the floor with my colleague, Brock Falkenberg. Distance learning is in full swing in Mendocino County. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was when we began, and it keeps improving thanks to the efforts of educators all over the county. It is Teachers Appreciation Week, and I want to thank all the teachers out there for taking the heavy lift required to keep our students engaged in learning. Many teachers are also balancing the need to care for their own children while they figure out how to provide students with educational materials. So thanks to all the teachers out there. As we contemplate returning to the classroom, our primary concern is the safety of students, staff, and our communities. Local schools are currently creating contingency plans on how to open safely. We need to provide equitable access to instruction for all students, which is hard enough in the classroom. And it becomes even more difficult as we consider ways to blend on-site instruction with distance learning. We have to consider things like food service, transportation, internet access, and more. Elementary schools are a little easier because we can keep students within the same cohort. Secondary schools, however, are much more complicated. So as we work through all the challenges related to COVID-19, funding really comes into question. Schools receive specific funding for specific uses, and we're really hoping state and federal funding sources will allow flexibility. We have many unexpected expenses related to distance learning forced upon us by COVID-19, and we hope that monies reserved for non-urgent activities and initiatives can be redirected to allow local decision makers to do what's best for local students. Many unknowns remain. Please stay positive and supportive with your school leaders. Before schools can finalize any plans to return to on-site teaching, they need to know what the state requires. The Ed Code was developed with certain paradigm in mind, one that did not include a pandemic. So school districts throughout California need guidance on how to proceed. We need to know where the state will be flexible and where it will not. Schools have high density and transportation issues, and there's a greater risk of spread unless protective measures are fully in place. Stay tuned and know that we're doing everything we can to keep everyone safe and students engaged in learning. I thank you, Senator, for this opportunity to be here today.
Madam Superintendent, thank you so much. Grateful for the comprehensive update on Mendocino County schools. We're now going to switch gears and head over the hill to Lake County. We're going to hear from Brock Falkenberg. He's the superintendent of schools for the county. The floor is yours, sir. You have 3 to 4 minutes with the 30-second prompt. Good evening, Mr. Superintendent.
Good evening, sir, and thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit this evening. The decision to dismiss students from school was unprecedented and dramatic. It put an unanticipated responsibility on our parents, our teachers, and our school staff. And I want to take just a moment to say thank you to each of those groups for stepping up during this crisis. As of today, students have been dismissed from school for going on 7 weeks. However, that does not mean schools are closed. They are still providing essential functions, and staff are available to assist. Now, in order to accommodate social distancing standards, hours and days may vary, so please call to make an appointment. 2 of the essential functions that schools are performing are outlined in the Governor's Order, Executive Order, N2620. The first one being to deliver high-quality educational opportunities, and the second one, provide meals for all children under 18. Originally, we thought we would be back to school in early April. Our teachers and our staff did a tremendous job of preparing work to fill a 3-week gap in instruction. However, it soon became apparent that student dismissal would be extended and indefinite. The County Office of Education and school districts have been and continue to work diligently to address distance-based learning strategies that enhance instructional outcomes. Now, we are engaged in a continuous improvement model, and we are improving every day. While it is impossible to replace the support, encouragement, and rapport that face-to-face classroom instruction provides, our teachers are working hard to overcome the barriers that the COVID-19 crisis has exposed. The second mandate was to provide meals. Our school service, food service staff, support staff, transportation staff, and classified staff have been outstanding in their collaboration to address the distribution of meals to all children under 18. And these meals will continue into the summer. For more information, make sure to contact your local school. And FYI, you do not have to be a student to access these meals. Now, what is the school year going to look like next year? I, for one, am advocating for and pushing for a full opening of schools in August, with accommodations for vulnerable students and families that desire distance-based learning. We would have to approach this pragmatically and strategically, with student and staff safety being at the forefront. However, I need to be frank. I suspect that we will see some sort of blended model of instruction at the beginning of the school year. Exactly what that looks like is still being planned and is dependent on the situation in August. So this might mean students are attending every other day or maybe 1 day a week. In any case, they will be supported with synchronous or asynchronous online instructional activities or some other form of distance-based learning. Each school district will determine the strategy that meets their community's needs and expectations. That being said, our kindergarten registration is continuing to happen. Some districts are online. Some will mail you a registration packet, so please check with your district's webpage or Facebook page or call your neighborhood school for specifics. Now, we are all in this together, and I appreciate the support of everyone on this line. We cannot let COVID-19 stop us from moving forward, and by pulling together, we will pull through this and we will thrive. Again, thank you for the opportunity this evening.
Well said, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you so much for your words, for the information, and thank you so much, Madam Superintendent, as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to be opening it up to each and every one of you. We have over 1,000 folks, about 1,025 on the line. We are receiving literally dozens of questions right now, and that's where we'd like to be able to go. Let's open it up to questions and your comments. Let's start right now. This first question is going to be going to Dr. Brewer from UCLA Medicine. This one is coming in from Sarah. Sarah says, given the heat, humidity, and UV light that inhibit virus survival outside the body, have you considered outdoor recreation as a strategy for reopening schools or our economy? So, Dr. Brewer, talk to us a little bit about heat, humidity, and UV light and the survival of the virus outside the body as summer hits. The floor is yours, Dr. Brewer.
Thank you, Senator. Sarah, you are correct that in general, viruses are killed more quickly by high heat, high humidity, and UVC, the disinfecting light of sunlight. Unfortunately, if we look at previous pandemics in 2009, 1918, what we saw was while the virus did decrease during the summer months, it did come back in the fall and the winter. So I suspect that the fact that not just the heat and the humidity, that people are farther apart, will also slow down transmission, but I don't think it will go away.
So just one more time, Dr. Brewer. So you believe we may see some slowing of the transmission over summer because of the heat, but it's just going to go underground, if you will. And talk about what that may mean for the fall.
So Senator, it's a combination of factors. One is as people move outdoors, they actually naturally disperse. And remember, one of our key interventions is physical distancing. So the more we spread out, the less likely the virus can transmit. Viruses transmit two ways, COVID-19, two ways. One is those infected droplets go from one person right on to another. The other is they land on a surface, and then you touch that surface and you introduce the virus into your mouth, nose, or eyes. The virus will not live as long on the surface under high heat, high humidity, or bright sunlight. So that will help, but I don't think it will bring it down to zero.
That's a great explanation. Thank you so much, Dr. Brewer, UCLA Medicine. We're now going to go to Superintendent Falkenberg. Superintendent, this is coming in from Nikki from Lower Lake Elementary. My question is, if we do start school in the fall with social distancing restrictions, what do you think busing will look like for public schools, or potentially eating in the cafeteria, spacing out desks in the classroom? She's wondering what you think, Mr. Superintendent, those three items will look like if we start school in the fall. Superintendent Falkenberg, Lake County.
Sure, and that's a good question, and it's certainly a dilemma as to how do we bring students back and still maintain the social distancing standards that are appropriate at that time in the crisis. So schools and school districts are going to have to look for flexible solutions to address maybe fewer students on the bus, maybe making more bus runs, having more recesses, keeping cohorts separated so that we can bring smaller groups into the lunchroom, or maybe bringing lunch to the classroom and supervising lunch within the classroom. I think there's strategies that we can look at. We just need to partner with our surrounding agencies, partner with other school districts, and really look for best practices.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. We're now going to go to Dr. Duhan. Dr. Duhan is the Public Health Officer for Mendocino County. This question comes in from Jean from Mendocino. Jean's question, at what stage will public libraries be reopened? Dr. Duhan.
Thank you for that question. Actually, public libraries could choose to reopen with social distancing and hygiene protocols with this next sheltering-in-place revision on Friday. They were not closed due to my order. There was a closure due to concerns about the ability to allow for social distancing and hygiene.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duhan. We're now going to go to Dr. Pace, Public Health Officer from Lake County. There are a lot of questions, Dr. Pace, about reopening Clear Lake. This one is coming in from Elaine from the city of Clear Lake. When will the lake be open to at least the residents of Lake County? Dr. Pace.
Right. Clear Lake has been a really area of a lot of interest to folks in Lake County. We had to close it down really early on because of all the people coming up from the Bay Area to the lake. We tried to close it to just local folks, and then that first weekend that we did that, the lake was packed with people coming up from the Bay Area where there was a high prevalence of the virus, and so we were really concerned that bringing all that virus up would overwhelm the infrastructure. So we had to shut it down. We've been in a lot of discussion now about how to open it, when to open it. Is there a way to do it where we can have it just available for the local folks and not for the folks from out of the area? And so what we did 2 weeks ago is we opened it a step. We allowed non-motorized boats to come on, thinking that would help limit it to more local people, and we opened it up for fishing, and it's gone pretty well. We have not seen a surge in cases. People have pretty much kept the social distancing.
Thank you.
So we're getting ready to move things further along, and we've been meeting about that, and word will be coming out soon about how to do that in alignment with the governor's orders.
All right, more to come on Clear Lake soon. Thank you so much, Dr. Pace. We're going to go to Dr. Duhan now, Mendocino County Public Health Officer. Dr. Duhan, I know we covered this in the beginning, but I can't tell you, 24 questions about camping. So let's go over it again. This next question is coming in from Valerie. She's concerned about tent camping. I'm hoping that you will address how tent campers who need to use the restroom will be handled if tent camping is allowed. So address that, Dr. Duhan, because I know that some of the complications, showering, using the restroom, how would you see that playing out? Right now, the state is not allowing those campgrounds, those group activities to be opened up at this time. But if it is, do you see it looking different later in the fall?
Yes, thank you. And I would mirror what my colleague, Dr. Pace, said about, using the recreational facilities within our county. I do not see camping being feasible this summer because it is too risky, both for introducing the virus into our county and for exactly these types of concerns about how would you maintain social distancing, how would you maintain hygiene in the campground. So I do not anticipate the campgrounds being open for the very concerns that the caller brought up.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duhan. We're now going to go to Dr. Brewer, UCLA Medicine, one of the best infectious disease docs we have in the Golden State. And then we're going to go to Dr. Duhan to be able to talk about vacation rentals on the Mendocino coast. This is a twofer. So this is coming in from Roger from Fort Bragg. Roger owns a vacation rental. He advertises on Airbnb. Roger wants to know, Dr. Brewer, can he get the coronavirus if I touch a hard surface while I'm cleaning my unit after the visitor has left? Dr. Brewer.
So, Roger, coronavirus can survive on hard surfaces anywhere from an order of minutes to hours to as long as 9 days under experimental conditions, but that's highly unlikely in a typical house. If you wear your gloves, you use a common disinfectant that will kill the virus, and then just make sure after you're done cleaning, remove your gloves and wash your hands, and you should be fine.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brewer. We're now going to go to Dr. Duhan. Dr. Duhan, a lot of conversation about reopening vacation rentals and hotels, especially out on the coast. Know that the state of California is not allowing that at this time. Edith wants to know, do you see the ability to travel anytime soon in Mendocino County as far as staying overnight on the coast? I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Duhan.
So with limited reopening, we're focusing on opening certain sectors first. For example, children, being able to play, retail, manufacturing. Vacation rentals and tourism is not something that's on line for being reopening in the next phase. It's something that's going to have to come later when we are seeing signs and indicators of stability with this pandemic. So I do not anticipate seeing tourism or hotels being open up for tourism this summer in Mendocino County, I'm sorry to say. That would be my prediction.
Dr. Duhan, thank you for the honesty. No, it's tough, but we got some serious challenges in front of us. Dr. Duhan, we're going to stick with you. Then we're going to go to Dr. Brewer on this same question. Paula writes in, with so little rain this year and summer coming, I'm wondering how necessary is it to wash hands in running water? Can we use a bowl of hot or even warm water? It takes a long time for her to get the water hot, and she believes it wastes water. Will warm water do the trick, or does she need to use hot water? Dr. Duhan.
Well, thank you for that question. I'm glad Dr. Brewer can follow up. So I believe that washing with cold water and plenty of soap should be sufficient for this virus. This is a virus that is easy to kill when you use soap. So I think cold water and soap, lots of soap, should be good, and warm water is better, and hot water would be even better still.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duhan, Public Health Officer, Mendocino County. We're now going to go to UCLA Medicine's Dr. Brewer.
So I agree completely with Dr. Duhan. The key factor there is the soap, because the soap will actually disrupt the envelope of the virus and make it fall apart and die. So the temperature of the water is not as important as the soap. The one caveat there is for laundry, you want to use as warm a temperature as the garment will allow. But for your hands, the key is the soap.
So go into that a little bit, Dr. Brewer. Why the difference between clothing and one's skin?
Just because in the clothing, the thought is the virus could be somehow trapped in the fibers, and not the laundry detergent might not access it. But there are no good data for any of this, and so I think the key is not to get too concerned. As long as you're doing a good job washing your hands with soap and water and laundering your clothes, you really should not worry about COVID being on your clothes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brewer. Dr. Brewer, we're going to stick with you. We've had about 24 questions, very similar questions about the U.S. Attorney General William Barr. The U.S. Attorney General William Barr has said that masks don't protect from the virus, but actually make the virus worse. Here's a question, why do we, even those with asthma and other medical conditions, have to wear masks if the Attorney General believes it makes the virus worse? So let's truth check that, Dr. Brewer from UCLA Medicine. Is that true?
So I'm not aware that the Attorney General said that, and I don't know what data or information he based that on. A couple of points. First, if you have any trouble breathing, you should not be wearing a mask. So anyone who has severe underlying asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, very young children, we should not be putting masks on those individuals. So if you have any trouble breathing at all, please don't wear a mask. The goal of the mask is to keep people who may be asymptomatic but infected from spreading the virus to others. So if you go on CNN, there's a nice video you can see where they put a mask on a dummy and they show what happens when a cough. And basically what the mask does is it catches most, but not all, of the droplets that come out of the dummy's mouth. So really the job of the mask is to catch those respiratory droplets which might contain virus and keep them from spreading to other people.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brewer. This next question is for Dr. Doohan. A question coming in from Ron. What measures have been taken to contain the coronavirus in Round Valley? Dr. Doohan, why don't you talk about the significant testing that Mendocino County Department of Public Health has been moving on out in Covelo?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'll respond very quickly, but I could actually speak to this for an hour. It was a tremendous collaborative effort, including Senator McGuire on the phone, and Carmel Angelo, our CEO, and then the tribe, the California Rural Indian Health Board, their EPI division, to contain the outbreak on the Round Valley Reservation. And the tribal leadership there was absolutely very, very strong. All 7 of the cases were in 2 families, all isolated, their contacts quarantined, and all but 2 have recovered. The remaining 2 just have a few days to go. So the reason why that didn't get into a bigger outbreak was that all of the people stayed home, isolated, their contacts quarantined. And it's very interesting, as we did the case investigation, the contact tracing, this was also a case of coming from the Bay Area. So all of our cases in Mendocino County, the infection was brought from an individual who had visited another area outside the Mendocino County, which is why it's so important that we really protect our county by, as much as possible, having those that enjoy recreation just be within the county. But it's a good story right now with Round Valley. I just want to say that we're continuing to work very closely with the tribe to make sure we follow up and continue to do testing. We did 350 tests in Round Valley, and then we had the 7 positive, and we'll continue to do testing there to monitor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Doohan, Public Health Officer in Mendocino County. We're now going to go to the Superintendent of Schools for Mendocino County. Her name is Michelle Hutchins. Madam Superintendent, this one is coming in from Danny in Ukiah. The question is this: do you believe the large high school in Ukiah will be able to hold a large gathering as in graduation, even if it's just the students, 300 plus, a few staff members, and practicing while they practice social distancing and wearing masks? All right, Superintendent, do you think that there will be an in-person graduation? At this point, the state is not allowing that size of crowd. I'll be honest, I don't want to take words out of your mouth. I don't think they should be planning on it, at least in the next many weeks. but I'll turn it over to you, Madam Superintendent, and that's for the California Department of Public Health.
Thank you, Senator. You did take the words out of my mouth, and it's very unfortunate because graduation truly is a rite of passage in our culture. We have so few rites of passage that students experience in transitioning to adulthood, and graduation is key. And unfortunately, under the current governor's orders, that size, even in stage 2 of the reopening orders of the governor, is not allowed. School districts, we're about to invite public health to join us in a conversation directly with the school district superintendents this week. And we hope to be able to brainstorm some alternatives that will honor our graduates to the best of our ability under the COVID-19 situation.
Thank you so much, Madam Superintendent. You're right. It is awful for those graduates, and we are so incredibly sorry. And know this is such a challenge. And you're 100% right, Madam Superintendent. A true rite of passage.
And especially this class, because this specific class has gone through fires in 2017. They've gone through the power safety shutdowns the last 2 years, and now this. It's just really been a lot for this specific class as well.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Well said. We are now going to go to both Dr. Brewer and Dr. Pace. We have 2 back-to-back questions for Brewer and Pace. Dr. Brewer, UCLA Medicine, this is coming in from Susan in Lake County. Does the antibody test determine if you have a natural antibody to this virus? Susan has been around for 6 decades, and she's never had the flu in her life. She understands that she could have been infected with the seasonal flu virus, but she's never had symptoms. So it seems, this is according to Susan, that I have a natural antibody for seasonal flu. Could that be the same for the coronavirus? Dr. Brewer, then we'll go to Dr. Pace. She asked both of you.
So first, Susan, hopefully you get your flu shot every year, in which case you will have antibodies against influenza. The COVID-19 virus is actually an animal virus originally from bats that, as best we can tell, jumped into humans sometime in late 2019. This is a virus that has never been in people before, as far as we know. And as far as we know, nobody has natural immunity to this virus. So it does not cross-react with the other coronaviruses that we know of.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brewer. Do you have anything you'd like to be able to add, Dr. Pace, to that issue from Susan?
No, I think the only thing to add to it is the point about the antibody testing that's out there now. So we're learning about this virus and about the antibody testing all the time. We don't know that much about it at this point, and when the antibody test does get available, we aren't really sure whether, if you do have antibodies to it, if that means you're safe. So I think getting that information now, you have to kind of weave it all together with everything else, because it's a little bit confusing and misleading. If you get the antibody test and you see that you do have antibodies, it may not mean that you're protected at this point.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pace. We're now going to go to Dr. Brewer, UCLA Medicine. This next question is coming in from Renata from the Lake County Record B. Renata asks Dr. Brewer, what's up with people O-positive blood type? Do they have more resistance against the virus? The floor is yours, Dr. Brewer. Those with O-positive blood types, can they have more resistance against the coronavirus?
So I'm not aware of any data to suggest that blood type affects the type of infection at all. So I'm not aware of that at all. The only issue around blood type is for convalescent sera. So what we are doing now is we're taking people who have recovered from the COVID-19 infection, and we are separating out antibodies and giving them to very sick patients in the hospital with the hope that those antibodies will help to fight the infection. When you do that, you have to make sure that you match for the blood type. but I'm not aware of any data to suggest that blood type makes you more or less at risk for having either COVID-19 or serious COVID-19 disease.
That was Dr. Brewer, UCLA Medicine. Thank you, Dr. Brewer. If you have questions or comments, please send them in now, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. We're still at about 1,000 neighbors strong on the line. Thank you for joining us. This next question is going to be going to Dr. Pace. This question is from Janelle, and we're going to also pose this to Dr. Duhan in Mendocino County. First, Dr. Pace. Janelle asks, how will it be decided if there is a surge, increases in cases upon opening the economy, if and when a shelter at home will need to occur again? Dr. Pace, how do you decide when to be able to implement a shelter at home when we open up the economy and we see a significant surge in cases?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is the one I think about a lot right now, and this is my concern for the summer as we open things up. I think we're going to be doing a lot more testing, and as we see cases coming in, if we're able to test at a proper rate and are able to cordon it off and prevent the spread from going around the community out of control, and also prevent the surges overwhelming the hospital capacity, that's really going to be the key. If it starts getting, so I don't know that there's a number cutoff, but it's more our abilities to cope with what we see, to identify people when they're infected and cordon it off so that it doesn't spread or that it doesn't overwhelm the hospital capacity. That's when we're going to be okay. We very well may need to put these shelter-in-place orders back in if we start seeing some of these problems showing up.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pace. Dr. Duhan, same question. What will be the triggers after we reopen our economy, we see and potentially see a surge in cases, that you would need to make the call to be able to bring back a shelter at home?
Yes, thank you. Well, I would mirror everything that my colleague Dr. Pace said. You know, it would be if we unfortunately ran out of personal protective equipment or ran low, we're not able to accommodate the people who needed hospitalization in our surged up hospitals. We're not able to isolate and quarantine people so that they could safely recover from the illness. And if we did not have testing capacity, at this point, we have everything in place that gives me confidence that we can respond to the pandemic as it does inevitably move through our county, but except for the testing capacity. So this is our weak area, our area of weakness that we're working so hard to build up, is the ability to do 135 tests a day in our county so that we can contain outbreaks and do surveillance. Like Dr. Pace was saying, he picked up a case in the jail through surveillance. None of our surveillance testing has revealed any cases so far, but it's so important we do that so we can find those hidden cases that are secretly waiting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duhan. We're now going to turn over to the issue of schools. We're going to go to Brock Falkenberg. This question came in from Susan. Superintendent Falkenberg, Susan asks, how are the alternative high schools receiving food? Is it delivered to their homes? Students at these schools, like Carl, have difficulty getting to school, so they cannot get to school to get meals. That's coming in from Susan. Mr. Falkenberg, the floor is yours.
You know, it's a difficult question to answer without knowing specifically which school we're talking about. So each of our schools have different plans for the distribution of meals. Some of those students are going to their local high school, even if they're an alternative school student, or their local elementary school. They don't have to go to the school that they are attending. Some of our districts have set up distribution plans where they are delivering food to homes. Others have distribution points around their communities, some of them in schools, some of them in fire stations. So my suggestion is to Susan to reach out and call her local school and find out specifically in her case how best to move forward in receiving those school lunches and to continue that relationship through the summer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Falkenberg. This next question is, we're going to stick with you, Mr. Falkenberg. This question comes in from Tobin. What are you doing to ensure that schools, when they are reopened in some capacity, have thermometers or sanitizers and protective equipment? Mr. Falkenberg, the floor is yours.
So we've been working with the school districts over the last several weeks to make sure that the plans that are in place are there to address both student and staff safety. The purchasing of protective gear, the purchase and requests for additional protective gear are out there. Our districts have all purchased sanitizing, disinfecting equipment. We are all moving forward in a manner to assure that safety is the prerequisite to opening any of our school facilities.
Thank you so much, Mr. Falkenberg. We're now going to go back to Dr. Duhan, Public Health Officer from Mendocino County, where we have a couple of emails tonight from gallery owners in Walla wanting to know what stage art galleries are on about opening up. Dr. Duhan.
Thank you. Well, I think that as soon as that we would allow retail to open up for people to come into shops, that would be the time when galleries should be able to open up too. And I hope that that's going to be soon, because in Mendocino County, we're rural and we're small, and everybody has done, I mean, we have small towns and everybody has done their part to keep, flatten the curve and to slow the spread. And so I'm hoping that we will be able to open shops as well as galleries for people to come inside this summer.
Thank you so much. And we're going to stick with you, Dr. Duhan, because there's a question coming in about pet grooming. And this is coming in from Madeline. There are no big stores like Petco that offers pet grooming in Mendocino County. Will small shops like pet groomers be allowed to open? That's coming in from Madeline. We'll turn it over to Dr. Duhan.
Well, thank you for that question, and I'm working hard on my revised sheltering-in-place order, which is going to come out on Friday with County Council. But assuming that there's no barrier from the governor, I'm going to give you a preview. I am going to be including that there is the ability to have animal care and grooming facilities open with social distancing and hygiene, such as pet grooming. And this would also include being able to get your horse's shoes, hooves trimmed and that type of thing. So not just small animals, but, animal hygiene and care would be opened up if I can do what I want to on Friday. But I do have to await the governor.
100%. So, again, what the governor is going to be looking at this Friday is the potential of reopening Stage 2 businesses. We'll define Stage 2 businesses as mom-and-pop retail as well as our manufacturing sector. That will look differently than it looked before. So working with public health officers like Dr. Duhan and Dr. Pace, mom-and-pop retail shops will need to be able to ensure social distancing between employees and customers, making sure that there's masking as well as hand sanitizer as well as other cleaning regimens. And they're going to need to be able to limit the number of folks going into the store. Dr. Duhan, would you say those are some of the foundational issues that public health officers will be looking at?
Absolutely. And looking at our small communities, asking, does it pose a risk? This is a perfect example. If you can do social distancing and you can have hygiene, and we have small towns, and we could say, let's say one animal at a time to come in to be groomed, it really just seems to be a very low-risk activity. So we are going to be looking to our businesses to have guidelines for social distancing and hygiene that can show that there's very low risk of transmission. And this would be one that I think would be a perfect example of a business that should be allowed to reopen in Phase 2, pet grooming.
No, thank you so much. Let's go to Dr. Pace. Dr. Pace, quickly, we have a few minutes left. Make sure you get your last-minute questions in to senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Dr. Pace, quickly, you heard those 3 items that I talked about. Is that something that you're going to be looking at for business owners to be able to implement prior to you giving the thumbs up?
Well, again, we're going to go ahead and line up with the governor, and really we're going to be looking at risk. So it's the same thing as Dr. Duhan's talking about. We're wanting to open up the lower risk places first and to make sure that people are able to keep the workers and the patrons of the business safe during all that. So it's really looking at risk, opening the door to let more activity go on, and trying to control the risk and control the spread of the virus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pace. We're now going to go to two questions for Dr. Brewer. This one is coming in from Edith and Philo. Edith asks, do you expect, Dr. Brewer from UCLA Medicine, do you expect what happened in Texas, a huge spike in cases after they reopened the economy, to happen here in California? Dr. Brewer.
Edith, hard to know. I think it depends a little bit on where it is. I do not expect a huge spike in Mendocino or Lake counties because, as Dr. Doohan and Dr. Pace have noted, they have been working very hard to put in the public health measures to pick up any cases as quickly as possible, and also they're less densely populated, which is also going to help you. I think the places I would be concerned about would be the Bay Area and my own Los Angeles.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Brewer. And I think the other big difference between Texas and California is California is not going to swing open the doors like we saw in Texas, not nearly as much. It's going to be more strategic and safe, I would say, as they allowed a lot more of the retail shops, dining in restaurants, et cetera, to be able to open up. And I think that probably played a factor in the spike in cases. The more we open up, the more freely we open up, logically, the more cases we may see. Would that be accurate, Dr. Brewer?
I would agree, Senator. And I think the other difference is I think the governor and Dr. Angel, the state public health officer, and all the county public health officers have been extremely thoughtful and careful in thinking about reopening, which I think is going to help us a lot.
All right. Dr. Brewer, here's one that's coming in from Michael. Can you summarize the science and describe the 8 mutations of the SARS/coronavirus and how you see testing and vaccinations will ensue for the various mutations of the coronavirus?
Okay, so Michael, a terrific question, actually very complex, and there have been more than 8 mutations noticed. The first thing to remember is that COVID-19 is an RNA virus, like hepatitis C, like measles. All RNA viruses mutate as they spread. COVID-19 is a very large RNA virus. It's about 3 times the size of influenza, and it actually has a proofreading system, very unusual for an RNA virus. So it actually mutates less than, say, a virus like influenza, which is also an RNA virus. We don't know if those mutations make any difference at all or not in terms of virulence, how deadly is the virus, or transmissibility, but we would expect natural mutations to occur. Whether that will affect the vaccine or the antibodies, too early to tell at this time.
Thank you so much. We have a couple more questions coming in for Dr. Brewer. Dr. Brewer, we're going to come right back with you, but we've had a lot of questions about explaining herd immunity. We're going to come back to Dr. Brewer in just a bit, but I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Doohan as well as Dr. Pace, public health officers in Mendocino and Lake counties. All right, doctors, we are getting a slew of questions from the lodging community. A lot of hotel and inn owners, a lot of vacation rental owners, asking, I know we talked about it earlier, but let's talk about it again, asking about reopening the tourism sector. Here's what I'll say, and then I'll turn it over to the two of you to see if you agree. Right now, as far as vacation rentals, inns, and resorts, that's on stage 3 of the California Department of Health list of reopening of businesses. I do not anticipate, at least for the next few weeks, potentially months, that we would see hospitality-based businesses opening. And here's the reason. We're going to go to stage 2 on Friday, reopening of mom and pop retail, reopening manufacturing. The state is going to, I don't want to speak for the governor because I can't, but I can't imagine, I have a feeling this is what it's going to be looking like. They're going to wait 14 days minimum to be able to see what the impact may be for reopening a significant part of our economy with stage 2 and then reevaluate. Dr. Doohan, Dr. Pace, would that be a fair assessment in regards to lodging?
Yeah, Senator, thank you for stating that so clearly. I absolutely agree with you. And the point of limited reopening is we have to do one thing at a time. And right now we're focusing on our children. We're focusing on people within our county who need to get out and recreate within our county. We're focusing on our retail stores. We're focusing on manufacturing. We have to get through this early stage, see what happens, and then we reevaluate. Tourism is down the road. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Pace.
I would absolutely agree with you and Dr. Doohan both. It's we're really wanting to limit mixing and people coming from out of the area, from higher prevalence areas, especially in these two counties that we're talking about where there's low prevalence now and there's smaller medical systems that can get easily overwhelmed. So to slow the spread, slowing the travel in is going to be a primary goal. And so that's one of the ways to do that is to limit the lodging.
100%, and we don't. And please, Dr. Pace, Dr. Doohan, I know that we don't say that lightly because so many are hurting financially. Our communities are dependent on lodging and hospitality, and it's a really difficult decision to have to make. Wouldn't you two agree? Yeah.
Absolutely. Very sorry to say these harsh words, and they are harsh, but that's the nature of this pandemic. It's very hurtful to all of us in many ways. Yes.
Thank you so much. We're going to go now to Dr. Brewer, UCLA Medicine. We have a couple more minutes left. Dr. Brewer, talk about herd immunity. How does it work, and how long does it take? How long does it take to be able to take hold?
So herd immunity is the concept of an infection stops spreading in a population because there are no longer any susceptibles, people who are capable of getting the infection in sufficient number to allow the infection to continue to spread. So there are two factors to herd immunity. The first is how easily does the infection spread? And the second factor is how good is the infection in an individual after how good is the immunity in an individual after they've been infected? So, for example, there is no herd immunity with tuberculosis. You can get tuberculosis more than once. So it's at two components. Now, for COVID-19, we think that in a population with one infected person and everybody else being susceptible, that one person will then lead to 2 to 4 other people becoming infected, and those 2 to 4 people will then lead to 2 to 4 more people becoming infected each. If you model that out based on that number and you assume that everybody who has been infected is completely protected, you have to infect about 60 to 70% of the population to get to a point where you have what is called herd immunity and the infection stops spreading within the population. However, that assumes that nothing else changes. And as we know from Dr. Pace and Dr. Doohan, a lot changes, right? We do physical distancing, we put on masks, we wash our hands. So herd immunity is not a terrific concept for us because we don't want this virus to whip through the population. We actually want to protect everybody and keep them from getting the infection in the first place.
Great explanation, Dr. Brewer. Last question on herd immunity. This is coming from me. So 60 to 70% of the population, what are we talking as far as timeline? As fast as this has been moving across the nation, what's your gut say, Dr. Brewer?
So in the absence of any intervention, Senator, that would probably take on the order of 1 to 2 years to happen. But remember, we're doing lots of interventions to slow this virus down. So again, the goal is not to allow herd immunity to stop this virus from spreading in our population, but to hopefully build out those very important and effective public health measures that Dr. Pace and Dr. Doohan have been leading in Mendocino and Lake County to protect us all from getting infected in the first place.
Dr. Brewer, nice work. Thank you so much for talking about that. A lot of questions tonight about herd immunity. We're going to go to the final question for Superintendent Hutchins tonight. This has been submitted by the board president of the Willits Unified School District, Alex Bolds. The board president is keenly interested in any insight on what K-12 schools will look like in September or whenever school will start. Madam Superintendent, I know this is a crystal ball. I know that you need to continue working with the state. It's a very trying time for you and all the other superintendents and teachers and classified staff. But what do you think it's going to look like in September at the start of the school year?
Thank you, Senator. So, what I can say is that the fall is a long ways away. And while it is still only a couple of months, there's so much information that is coming at us daily that it really is a long ways away. The types of things that we're discussing, not knowing what the governor is going to put into place for the social distancing guidelines and specifically what size of cohorts of students we can have on a school campus. We can't make our facilities bigger. We're limited to the size facilities we have. So really all we can do is divide up our student population into different cohorts and then alter those students on and off campus in some kind of pattern that will be the best, again, working with public health to determine what is the best pattern to reduce crossover of those populations with any kind of potential spread. So it's really still very much unknown, but I think it will include a blend of distance learning and in-seat time. And again, we are really staging decisions based on having the necessary information and enough time to plan and act on those plans. And it's difficult.
Thank you so much, Madam Superintendent. We do appreciate the president of the Board of Trustees and Willits sending in that question.
Absolutely.
We're going to go to Dr. Pace. Dr. Pace, last question for you tonight, coming in from Mary. Mary wants to know if there would be any consideration to allowing churches to have services by having their parishioners come and park in the parking lot and listen to the church service on a loudspeaker. Dr. Pace, what are your thoughts?
I think we're in conversation now with some of the churches about ways that they can minister to their folks, and so these are the kind of solutions that we really need to come up with now on how to help people enjoy their lives and kind of connect together in a safe way. And so those are all on the table to try to figure out how to do these kind of things in a safe way. So absolutely.
Thank you so much. Dr. Duhan, we've had some questions from Mendocino County about church services, about a bridge approach, if you will, folks staying in their cars, listening to the service from the pastor or the priest. What say you in Mendocino County?
Well, the new sheltering-in-place orders that I'm writing are including the ability for people to recreate in their vehicles and for there to be live streaming or recording of events so that people could actually, according to these sheltering-in-place orders, attend a service and participate from their vehicle, and that the event could be live streamed by the leaders of the church. So I think there's room in my new sheltering-in-place orders to have safe live streaming of events.
Dr. Duhan, thank you so much. And we're just about at time, ladies and gentlemen. We're about 7:45. Thank you so much, everyone who has turned in tonight. We want to take a moment to say thank you to Dr. Brewer from UCLA Medicine, Dr. Pace, the Public Health Officer from Lake County, Dr. Duhan, the Public Health Officer from Mendocino County, and our Superintendents of Schools from Lake County. We want to say thank you to Mr. Falkenberg and Mendocino County, Ms. Hutchins. We want to say how much we appreciate both county administrators from both Mendocino and Lake County being on the line with us. A reminder, we're doing these telephone town halls every week to be able to connect you with those who are on the front lines with the most accurate and timely information. And speaking of timely information, we need to remind you that the census is still happening. And we are seeing an underreporting of census from both Lake and Mendocino County because of the pandemic. You should have received a postcard or an email from the federal government about how to fill out your census form. I promise you, it only takes a few minutes, but it's going to have lasting impacts, literally for a generation. If you need more information or did not receive a postcard, please go to census.gov right after this call and click on the Complete Census Now button. It's on the front and center on the home page there with the Census Department. And a reminder, literally tens of millions of dollars over the next decade is on the table for public health, for the sheriff's office, for firefighting. So please fill out your census form as soon as you can. Thank you so much for taking the time to be able to be with us. An audio recording will be available by tomorrow, Thursday afternoon, May 7th. We're going to provide that audio file to both counties so they can post on their social media channels. We'll do the same. Thank you so much for joining our coronavirus telephone town hall with a special focus on Mendocino and Lake counties. Stay safe, and North Coast, stay strong. Have a great evening. This town hall is now concluding.